What do you think of when I say the word ghost? What comes to your mind when I say the word spirit? Do you believe in the paranormal? To understand the answers to these questions, we must first delve deep into these topics. What exactly does the word paranormal mean? What falls under the category of spiritual activity? What exactly is a ghost capable of? We've all heard the stories, we've all seen the movies, but what does a ghost look like or act like in real life? We live in a world that we don't fully understand. A world full of performance-enhancing medicine, technology unlike any other, and some of the most complex sciences known in human existence. But in this world full of wonders and achievements lies a deeper, darker phenomenon. People who we can't see, hear, or even talk to, but we still sense their presences. Events that can't be explained or simply just refused to be accepted in reality. A world that we're not even sure fully exists, but it continues to give us signs that something's there. There are many different types of events that can fall under the category of supernatural. UFOs, aliens, demons, even Bigfoot. However, we're going to be taking a look into what most people can agree is the most popular, and equally the most terrifying: the spirit world. The definition of a spirit is a soul of a living being, a ghost, a familiar presence, or even an energy that can be felt. An example of a spirit is a person's character. It usually revolves around familiarity, a smell, a feeling, or even the temperature of the room. They're all signs that a potential spirit is near. According to believers, a ghost is the spirit of a dead person that either hasn't moved on to the afterlife or has returned from it. The definition of a spirit can oftentimes vary. Some describe it as a person's soul, while others believe it to be an energetic imprint that a person leaves on the world. The soul of a dead person can be seen in real life, usually as a vague, shadowy, or evanescent form. It can usually be seen wandering around, haunting living people or even places. The shadowy figure is usually a reflection on the character, a mere shadow that has faded from memory. It's unfamiliar as to why these spirits tend to attach themselves to certain things. Perhaps a spirit is coming back from the afterlife to check on its loved ones, to make sure that its family is okay. Maybe the spirit has an attachment to the house, and if the house is torn down, then it can stay on the land. Sometimes, on rare occasions, objects can become haunted, typically seen as dolls or even a wheelchair moving. But that's Hollywood's interpretation. We're going to be focusing on what most people would account fits into reality, or at least those who would accept it. People often tend to jump to conclusions when it comes to haunting. A bump in the night quickly becomes a person hiding in the shadows, a lost soul stuck in the building, or something much more sinister. Even though it may seem simple to connect something to a ghost and then later brush it off as being something ridiculous, hauntings are more common than one might think. Hauntings are usually scoffed at by people who don't believe in them. You could put up the argument that it's all in your head, that the reason there's a ghost living amongst you is because you didn't bother to check what the noise was yourself, or simply because you're just spiritual enough to believe that that kind of stuff exists. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the idea of something lurking in the shadows that you can't see or communicate with is terrifying, even though it may just be someone trying to communicate with you. Some paranormal experiences can be easily explained, typically on faulty activity to the brain, such as seeing someone that isn't really there, or a shadow morphing due to the lack of light. Reports of poltergeists and visibly moving objects seem to be consistent with damage to certain regions of the right hemisphere of the brain. This is usually responsible for visual processing. Certain forms of epilepsy or anxiety can cause the spooky feeling that a presence is stalking you close, by maybe underlying the accounts of a faceless shadow people floating in the surroundings. These events can also be explained by sleep paralysis. Your brain simply hasn't gotten enough rest, and as a result it's beginning to create images around you even though they're not really there. Another explainable factor to poltergeist activity is simple forgetfulness. If one was to forget that they left a certain object in a certain position, only to come back and find out that that item is in a different orientation or in a different place altogether, it may just be them simply forgetting that they left it in a certain orientation, or even in that area. People who believe in paranormal events are typically described as those who either don't accept reality, are looking to extend their beliefs on reality, or just fail to see the realism in a certain situation. Proposals regarding the paranormal are different from scientific speculations, shown from scientific research, because scientific ideas are grounded in the confines of reality and believe that everything has a logical explanation. In contrast, those who argue for the existence of paranormal creatures do not base their arguments on solid evidence, but rather on stories from around the area, testimonies, suspicions, and on occasion, sightings. People tend to connect the paranormal to those who have passed on, giving these titles ghosts, spirits, or various other titles, which we'll get into in a bit. Though the idea of believing in people who aren't there, people you can't see or talk to or communicate with in either way, is actually very popular. There are many sites online dedicated to paranormal activity, many TV shows based around finding paranormal activity and showing it off to the greater public. Many YouTube videos of people journeying to unexpected and unmapped locations simply to find an evidence of ghostly materials. It's easy to fake paranormal evidence as a door moving being attached to a string, or an object being knocked over by the wind. Either way, this can either be something serious or something fun. It depends on how you look at it, and it depends on how easily scared you might be. There are many different types of ghosts, many different categories that one can fall into. However, the most popular by far are poltergeists and funnel ghosts. The funnel ghost is typically associated with cold spots, entering a room that's suddenly cold when the rest of the area could be warm. These spirits can usually take the form of a swirling funnel, hence the name, and most paranormal experts believe that they are loved ones returning for a visit, even a former resident of a home or building. Appearing as a wisp of light or swirling spiral, they are often caught in photographs or videos. Funnel ghosts are the reason why YouTube videos, TV shows, and even movies gained popularity amongst the paranormal. People believe that it's easier for ghosts or spirits to show themselves on camera rather than to the human eye. Perhaps one of the most popular terms most of us has heard when it comes to ghosts is the word poltergeist. Poltergeist actually means noisy ghost, because it's said to have the ability to move, knock things over, make noises, and even manipulate the physical environment. While many of us has heard the term before, a poltergeist is actually one of the rarest forms of hauntings and the most terrifying. Loud knocking sounds, lights turning on and off, doors slamming open or closed, even fires breaking out mysteriously have all been attributed to this kind of spiritual disturbance. Another frightening aspect of the poltergeist is the event that usually starts to slow and mildly begins to intensify. While many times poltergeist activity is harmless, it ends quickly and have been known to become dangerous. Going back to YouTube, one of the oldest videos on the channel is of a man's house where all the cabinets and doors suddenly swing open, chairs are moved and cups are thrown. This is usually what people believe poltergeist activity to be. Poltergeists are typically the most glorified form of spiritual activity. They are used in many movies, videos, and even in stories. Poltergeists are most likely the spiritual activity to be blamed for Hollywood getting interested. Movies such as Paranormal Activity, Grave Encounters, and even the appropriately named Poltergeist are films that brought paranormal and ghost activity to the spotlight. But what happens when your ghost no longer stays behind a screen? What happens when you take a picture and you see something that you didn't notice before? What happens when you're convinced that you're being followed by a ghost? Orbs are probably the most evidently photographed type of anomaly seen in modern investigations. They appear as a transparent, translucent ball of light that is hovering over the ground. It's believed that orbs are the soul of a human, or even an animal that has died and is travelling around from one place to another. The circular shape they take on makes it easier for them to move around, and is often the first state they appear in before becoming a full-bodied apparition. If you're lucky enough to capture an orb on video, you'll be amazed at how fast they can move. In photographs, they're usually white, but they can still appear as blue in colour. Orbs are typically seen floating in a particular direction, and in paranormal investigation TV shows, orbs are the most common thing to see. A good place to start to get to know if an area is haunted is by taking a couple photos or videos and looking for orbs. The problem with orbs though is that they can typically be debunked as being a bug or reflection or the shine off a torch. Sometimes spirits can attach themselves to other people or objects. Some spirits can get attached to people and start following them around. However, it has also been said that some spirits follow people around out of pure curiosity. They're trying to figure out what time period they're in and how certain people act. So they start travelling between one person and another before they get enough information they need and simply disperse, or stay with that one particular person. Combine this with the fact that some spirits may not be friendly and people start to get scared. They want to get rid of whatever has attached itself to the area. This may lead to an exorcism. An exorcism is the religious or spiritual practice of evicting demons and other spiritual entities from a person or area that's believed to be possessed. Depending on the spiritual beliefs of the exorcist, this may be done by causing the entity to swear an oath, performing an elaborate ritual, or simply by commanding it to depart in the name of a higher power. The practice is ancient and part of the belief system of many cultures and religions. There can be many effects of an exorcism on the average human body. Many of them can be dangerous. It may also kill the body of the host. Exorcism does not only just affect the host's body though. If a spirit who has possessed the human is very powerful, it leaves some after effects on people who were around it at the time of the exorcism. This could mean that evicting a spirit from one body could simply just pass it on to another. The effects of an exorcism includes very intense weakness in the body, tense and sometimes extreme body pain, terrifying nightmares, a feeling of being alone or powerless, and many other smaller things. The most important thing that some normal and unexperienced people never think of is what if, during the time of the possession, the spirit has damaged the body in a very extreme way. What if, after the possession, the spirit did something to the host's body that would have killed or hurt a normal person if it wasn't possessed? Or what if during the exorcism something goes wrong? These things would not have any instant effect, but these things would have the risk of killing the host's body. Not all spirits are bad or violent. There have been cases of people feeling a warm or loving presence around them, as if a family member has returned or is simply just checking in on them. This type of spirit is usually the go-to explanation as to why a spirit may haunt that location. But due to the fact that we as humans don't know that much about the afterlife, we find it scary. The fatal flaw that people make when it comes to hauntings or paranormal activity is to respond with fear. The body reacts to something it can't explain with fear. It's a primal instinct that we've had since the Stone Age. However, paranormal experts believe this is a way of aggravating the spirit by showing fear, anger, or even an intent to get rid of it. There's many things we don't understand about spirits, ghosts, or anything along that line. That is where the term paranormal comes from. The idea of something being anti-normal or strange. Some people devote their lives to finding evidence in the paranormal. These people are known as paranormal investigators and have become more and more popular over the recent years. YouTube, as mentioned before, is flooding with channels and people dedicating themselves trying to find solid evidence. TV shows such as Ghost Adventures is another reason as to why paranormal investigations has become so popular among media. Seeing an investigation done on YouTube is one thing, but to see it being publicly aired in a TV show is an entirely different thing. These investigators use very advanced technology and tools to try and capture evidence of the paranormal. These tools include an EMF detector, a recording device, and even thermal imaging. Some investigators, however, tend to use a more low-budget approach. For example, the video game console, the Xbox, comes with a Kinect feature, which uses a camera to detect people. This camera has often been shown recording figures that are not really there. A popular and rather cheap tool is something called deviation rods. Two metal sticks, looking very similar to the tool Allen keys, are placed in someone's hands, pointing in a certain direction. The one holding the sticks get the shorter end, while the longer ends stick outwards. The shorter ends are attached to a swivel, allowing them to move freely. These deviation rods are so easily movable that it's often thought that the ones that move them are spirits. This could be brushed off as the wind. However, when asked to point in a specific direction, it becomes a lot less easy to brush it off as just the wind. Other tools involve a simple ball being placed on the floor to see if it moves, a toy, preferably with wheels, to see if it moves or rolls, and even the ever-popular Ouija board. What you're about to hear is an interview from a local paranormal investigation group known as Back in Time. They journey all around the country with high-tech gear and a pretty sizable recording crew. Their goal is to simply capture evidence of the paranormal and show it off to the public. The interview takes place on Halloween night in RT Studio in Dublin. One of the interviewers is a skeptic and as a result does not believe in these kind of things. Meanwhile, the main interviewer takes a very keen interest, asking various questions and shows genuine curiosity.
So what are some of the stuff that we're going to be using tonight?
So we're very old school in what we do. The equipment we use we've a lot of homemade experiments, I suppose, as you put them. We have a board that we put ping pong balls on and they're marked. So we can leave them in an area where we know nobody's going to go into, close off the door and see if we can get something to move those. That's one of the things we do. And we've also got the rods, the divination rods, that I work very well for myself. We can communicate really well with them because we can ask questions and they will respond.
Yeah. Are they the rods that the people use to find water?
Yes, exactly.
Because I mean, like I'd be your traditional skeptic or whatever, but I've seen so many people use them and locate water that has been had a well or whatever.
That's
been built
really
up. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
We'll put you on them later on. You can see for yourself.
oh yeah.
Well, actually,
In all fairness, last year,
they pointed at you.
they
Didn't they?
pointed at me. I stood in various places in the room, and it said, like, I remember you were asking whatever spirit it was in the house last year, could you please tell us where you're standing? I stood over there, stood at the end of the room, stood behind someone. It still pointed at me, no matter. And even one of the girls who actually works in it from before, Laura, she was there as well. She said, you know what? Can I actually take these because I want to see whether she's being for real or not? Exact same thing happened. She tried it 2 or 3 times for me.
Her?
Potentially, yeah. There's something creeping outside the studio.
Well,
I've got somebody following me around. Because you asked it a question that I didn't like. Did you come here with Tara?
Yeah.
And it said yes. So I was like,
Lovely.
I'm just gonna bow out of this situation.
There are many spots, even around the small country of Ireland, that are very popular among paranormal investigators. Places such as the Hellfire Club or the very popular Loftus Hall, which on Halloween is known to being held lockdowns that are open to the public. These lockdowns would consist of people coming into the building and being locked in. During the lock-in, all lights and electrical gadgets are turned off. This leads to little disturbances by means of electric currents. People reported being genuinely creeped out by these experiences, even though nothing major actually happens. Senses of a presence, the odd noise, or even a door closing mysteriously by itself is all major traits shown in lockdowns.
Where would some of the most haunted locations be? Like, we often talk about, especially on a Halloween night, like places like the Hellfire Club, for example. Like, I mean, have you been up there? Would that be advisable to go on nights like this?
I've been to the Hellfire Club and I did not like it. There's something up there that's not good. That's all I can say. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's very uncomfortable. We had a case.
Because I've been up there during the day, and
Yeah.
I do. Now, maybe it's just because it looks like a scary enough place. I've been there up during the day. There's a weird feeling off the place, especially inside the building. I don't know if that's just my mind playing tricks on me or what.
Well, that's it, because it has the story attached to it, of
Yeah.
course, as well, of the devil and everything like that. But and obviously that will play tricks on your mind. But there is just something up there that's not right, and that's all I can say about the place. And good luck if anybody's going up there.
You want to be a brave person heading
You
up
really
there tonight, actually, wouldn't you? Right.
The Back in Time group have been all over the country trying to find evidence of the paranormal, and some of their results have been successful. You can find them on Facebook at Back in Time, where they have multiple photos, videos, and even host live streams trying to find evidence of the paranormal. I would like to thank one of the members named Mary for allowing me to use this footage and for allowing me to talk about her group, as well as supplying me with multiple forms of information on the paranormal and how these investigations work. Paranormal events are a reported phenomena that are usually ignored or laughed at by other people. People who believe in ghosts are seen to be less acceptable to reality. One very unsettling feature about ghosts is that you often don't know you've been visited by one until it's already too late. What I mean by that is spirits don't exactly make themselves known upright. They let you know they're there in very subtle ways. This is why they're considered to be creepy. The subtlety of their actions are replied with by being determined as they're creepy. That feeling of something being out of sight or hiding from you. Discovering a ghost typically comes later, after plenty of careful reviewing and speculation. A common way of people picking up ghosts or spiritual messages is by simply recording thin air. Looking back over these recordings, you may find a hidden disturbing message. Maybe it's just someone saying hello, or possibly someone calling for help. What a ghost or spirit can do depends on how much energy resides within that spirit. Low energy ghosts are capable of making small noises, such as a tap on the floor or a creak in the windows. High energy ghosts can typically leave behind messages that we talked about earlier, speaking directly into a recording device, only for the one recording to later go back over the audio and find something that they didn't say themselves. A spirit with an extremely high energy level can even be seen, typically as a black mass, or even as just a floating orb, as described when we were talking about the funnel ghost. Shadow people are often heavily associated with the paranormal. This again could come back to your mind playing tricks on you, or simply there not being enough light for you to make out what's going on around you. However, sometimes spirits do have enough energy to manifest themselves physically, appearing as a person in our world, typically matching whatever they looked like when they were still alive. Spirits can often manipulate the white noise around them. This white noise can be heard on good recording devices such as a high quality microphone or even modern day phones. Sometimes, if a spirit manipulates the white noise, the recording device can pick up that message, creating what's known as an EVP, or an electronic voice phenomenon. Electronic voice phenomenons are very popular among paranormal investigations. You can see them all over YouTube and all over the TV shows that we talked about earlier. I'm going to include some samples of some EVPs. These clips may creep some of you listeners out. The first clip appears to be the voice of a man, warning us that he's still here, possibly not realizing he's passed on to the afterlife, or simply telling us that he's still watching. Moving on to a more friendly spirit, we have a voice of another man who appears to be telling his loved one that he loves them. The EVP here is a lot clearer than the first one, and you can actually hear the distorted message of a man saying, "I love you." Finally, we're going to look at a less friendly message. This message appears to be a lot more aggressive, yet also having a subtle element to it. It sounds a lot like a female voice, whispering, "Get out of my house." This could be attached back to the unfriendly spirits that we talked about earlier, and is more along the lines of what you might hear in a ghost story or a horror movie. Very aggressive spirits can actually harm people. There are a few ways of doing this. People have been said to be pushed, people have said to be shoved. There have even been cases of people who have been locked in or outside of a room. But a pretty common and pretty concerning aspect are scratches. Multiple people have come forward admitting that they've been scratched or physically harmed by a spirit. These are more likely as a result of that person being haunted by a demon, which, as mentioned before, is to be dealt with via exorcism. Sometimes these unfriendly ghosts can get aggressive, physically aggressive. Some people have even said that they've woken up in the middle of the night with the feeling of hands wrapped around their neck, as if someone was choking them. The world of spiritual beliefs is always very here nor there. You either do believe in them, or you don't. There's very few who stand in the in-between line. Usually, if you do believe in them, then you're adamant about that, and you'll push other people to believe in them too. However, if you don't believe in them, you'll be less likely to accept that matter, and more likely to push those people away who do believe in them. Whether you do believe in them or don't, the simple idea of the spirit world is pretty entertaining, if not fascinating. And let's face it, even if it doesn't exist, we still got some good horror movies and stories to tell out of it. Maybe those people are right. Maybe ghosts don't exist. Maybe the ghosts we've been hearing are just noises. Maybe the things we've been seeing are just our mind playing tricks on us. Maybe that spooky feeling we get is just anxiety. But what if it's not? Determining whether or not somewhere is haunted is no easy task. It's simple to brush off something paranormal simply being the wind or the house settling. People tend not to believe in this kind of stuff as a result of fear or simply just believing that it's all ridiculous. Most people, however, myself included, are rather fascinated by the topic. But what do you think? During this audio documentary, possibly you've been reconsidering certain situations that you found yourself in. You've been thinking maybe that sound during the night wasn't just the house settling. Maybe I didn't leave that one item in that orientation. Maybe that one time I thought I saw something, maybe I actually did. Maybe I'll be more keen to look out for this kind of stuff in the future. Maybe I'll be less tempted to brush something off and actually consider whether it was or wasn't a ghost. But that's up for you to decide. That's up to what you believe in. So now, I ask you again. What do you think of when I say the word spirit? What do you think of when I say the word ghost? Do you believe in the paranormal?